Today we're going to be checking out the DC Collectibles DC Icons DC Universe Rebirth Justice League box set. Admittingly, the DC Icons line really hasn't taken off to what DC Collectibles had hoped, but there were still a lot of collectors like myself that wanted to kind of give these guys a chance, and specifically like this set here, the Rebirth Justice League box set, gave us really everything that we would have wanted, in the sense that in one box set you basically can get all the main core members of Justice League. The set specifically here was about $125, but if you think about it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 figures making up this box set. So there is value here, but in all honesty, I don't know if the value is well spent picking up this box set. I unfortunately kind of have cheated here. As you will see, all the figures have display stands. They actually have no display stands whatsoever when you buy the box set. I end up having to make use of, I'll just take Superman off here for example, I made use of the DC Universe blue display stands. It fits the bill perfectly. I mean, the feet stand pretty good into the little pegs. And I was able to get not only the opener of this review properly shot, but I was able to actually get these figures to stand, because I gotta admit, some of these figures are disastrous. We're going to look at each one of these, and in no particular order. I think maybe what we'll do is we'll start with Superman, as we basically already kind of started that review. I'll move the display stand out of the way. I will stress again, these stands are not included with the set. All the figures come with 0 accessories, which is unfortunate that that's the one trade-off that you get from this. You get a lot of figures, but you really don't get any accessories or display stands or anything like that with the figures. Now, a little background story to these. The figures themselves were initially going to be released under New 52 costumes, but then DC, of course, changed New 52 and then rebranded it, restarted the universe as Rebirth, that they ended up having to go back and they retooled these figures to then be in the Rebirth costume designs and colors. The Superman, for example, shares similar aspects to the New 52 Superman. Similar, especially in the belt area, where that seems to carry over. The armored up costumes is not something that carried over, luckily, from New 52, even though I did actually enjoy Superman's costume design from New 52. It doesn't actually carry over here. It's kind of actually more closer to the movie Superman costume. Instead now of the red boots, he's got these little kind of red indications as to where the boots would have been, instead now favoring an all blue color. There goes Flash. I'm wondering if anyone else will fall over the process. The face is okay, it's passable. It does have a heroic look to Superman. It's not the nicest looking head sculpt, I have to admit, but of the ones that we are going to be looking at, I find Superman actually to be one of the better looking head sculpts, if that says anything. The skin tone is decent enough. Again, the eyes aren't terrible. I don't know what it is. It just seems like he's got a very stretched head. He's got these little splotches. You'll notice that a lot of these figures have these weird imperfections with their flesh tone. Superman here just has these little blobs of paint, like right around the lower area that connects. It's not like it's some of the blue carried over, but then this red just came out of nowhere, unless some of it came from the cape itself. The cape, by the way, is a rubbery plastic featuring the Superman logo on the back. That's nice. I like that. He's got some metallic blue there around the wrists. I mean, it's a good costume. I like the costume, but unfortunately, I just don't feel like these particular figures capture the essence of what I would really like these characters to look like. They're good, but their execution is, in all honesty, a little poor. I'll look at the Superman's articulation, which basically is all the same for all the other figures. Wonder Woman's might be a little slightly different, but they all pretty much share the exact same posability. Their heads rotate all the way around on a ball joint. The shoulders hinge outward as well as an all the way around rotation. He has a swivel in his bicep, a double hinge in the elbow, although you really can't double hinge him because he's got such a big massive bicep. You pretty much are relegated to a single hinge in the elbow. He has a rotation in the wrists as well as a hinge back and forth. He's got an upper torso ball joint as well as a lower torso crunch and a forward and back motion on the legs. You can slightly detach the legs if you want a little bit more of a fluent rotation back and forth. A double hinge on the knee, which actually works a lot better here on Superman. And not only a pivot back and forth, but you also get that ankle pivot, which works somewhat good on some figures, and on other figures makes the figures disastrous. Superman, I think, actually started relatively high. I set the bar pretty high on this review by starting with Superman. His face isn't perfect, but in all honesty, it's one of the better ones when you start comparing it to, say, the likes of Aquaman, which I think Aquaman is really bad. But that's Superman. We'll kind of put him to the side. I want to really focus efforts on Wonder Woman, but I'm going to hold off on that one for a second. Let's look at Flash, seeing as he did fall. Flash seems to have a more carried over design from that of the New 52, utilizing some of that lightning bolt covering his outfit. I'm still a little iffy. I don't really like the design all that much, but I'm glad that the Rebirth design Flash did get rid of that little chin part of his mask, which I really didn't like all that much. The face sculpt on Flash actually is decent. The lightning bolts, luckily, have still stayed intact. They're not broken off. And I like that he's got a raised elevation here for the lightning bolt on his torso. The lightning also here has been raised as well, so it's not just simply painted on. And the same can be said for the lightning bolts on the forearm. They're all sculpted over top. I like that. I like that a lot. He's a much thinner build, which is one thing I could say as a good plus to the figure line. Like, they're not using the same molds as DC Universe. The icons at least have their own designated molds. So Flash is a lot thinner than Superman. Strangely enough, he's a lot broader than Green Lantern, but we'll get into Green Lantern in a second. The boots are nicely sculpted, and they've sculpted in kind of these spiked treads, which is very strange, but I guess that makes sense if he wants to catch the, if he's trying to slow down or something like that on the ground. So also kind of looks a little bit like lightning bolts too. Let's get him on a display stand. I wish these guys actually did come with display stands because they really, really need them. Their ankles are just, I don't know, they just can't seem to hold their weight, it seems, when you just have them freestanding. Let's look at Batman next. We'll take him off the stand. And again, he has similar traits to the New 52 design, although they've now gotten rid of all that panel lining. When instead, what we get now is a purple interior cape, the yellow outline of the bat emblem, which actually, you know what, I do really start now liking. I initially thought, I don't know if I like yellow on the outline of the bat logo, but it has actually, I've warmed up to it. The utility belt, primarily black with some trimming here in yellow. The boots are pretty much consistent. I still don't like the kind of this bat emblem. It's like an H shape on the kneecaps. I don't know why they had to incorporate that, but he's got some gauntlets on the sides. Let's talk face. Specifically, let's talk Batman's face. It looks off. This part actually doesn't look so bad. But then when you get to this part, it looks like they've shortened the natural length of what his face and chin should be. And instead, it looks like they've just squished it together. It looks like he's got a very short chin. It also looks like he's pouting by the expression on his face. It's this just one broad line across for his mouth. If not for that, I actually think this is one of the better figures from this box set release. I won't spend a lot of time on the articulation because we've already looked at it with Superman. A nice sculpting here on the cape. Everything about this particular Batman I really like, just except for his face. He's got this pouting, squish, squat little face. It just looks awkward. Let's get him back on his display stand before he falls over. I can't tell you how difficult it was to actually get all those figures to stand when I did the initial rotation at the beginning of this review. I reshot that about 6 or 7 times before I finally just gave up and got stands for all of these. The biggest culprit being Wonder Woman. You know what, we'll look at Wonder Woman right now. I started that, I might as well finish it by looking at the figure. Wonder Woman has one of the nicest sculpts, I think, for faces, but she has one of the most disastrous executions for her body. Like, look at her ankles. Her ankles are the loosest. You can imagine how standing her on her own was problematic. There's barely anything to hold her up. I was actually even surprised I could get her to stand now. Again, the face is good. There's kind of a softer look to her face. The coloring is decent. She's got, again, the new Rebirth design kind of has more a design very reminiscent of the new Wonder Woman movie. So the bodice and especially the skirt all seem to be carryovers from the Wonder Woman movie. The gold is a nice touch. The trim that they put around it is really nicely done. And they've even textured in part of the skirt, so it gives it that sense of, it's not just like a smooth plastic. Again, the face sculpt is pretty good. The hair is sculpted in nicely as well. And for her posability, her head is on that ball joint. As you would probably expect, though, the hair it becomes a little difficult getting it over the shoulders. Shoulders hinge outward. Basically, everything we saw with the other male characters are here on Wonder Woman as well. But I just wanted to mention Wonder Woman's because Wonder Woman can bend a little bit easier because she's got the thinner bicep. You rotate again with the wrists. Upper torso ball joint, you got that still. You got the lower crunch. A good motion in the legs. Double hinge on that knee. And again, these disastrous. Look at the state of these ankles. That is sad. Very, very sad. Which is almost so criminal because Wonder Woman's one of my favorites from this box set. It's just she's impossible to stand. Of all the figures that have fallen from the time I started this review till now, Wonder Woman was #1. And that's not an award that you want to be handing out. Even like getting her to stand now on this display stand is difficult. I can't say that it's mold degradation because, I mean, really, we haven't gotten a Wonder Woman figure before, but she just does not stand well at all. If not for the display stand, she would just be toppling over right now as we speak. Let's go from good to bad. Here we have Green Lantern, which he has really made an appearance before. He's one of the few figures from this wave, from this box set here, that has made a second release. I mean, Flash technically, yes. I think Aquaman made another release. Of course, Batman did. But, I mean, they all have variations. This one seems like it's closer to the original one versus the others. Still kind of has that, kind of looks like David Bowie to me. I don't know why. He has good coloring, but he has just one of the ugliest looking builds and one of the ugliest looking face sculpts. The face sculpt would normally look okay, but if you just pair it with the rest of the figure, head to toe, collectively, the figure just reads ugly to me. They have not sculpted necessarily the ring, instead favored just splotching green paint onto the finger here. It just seems a bit sloppy. I like the metallic that they've incorporated into the body. Some additional texturing here on the shoulders and the front of the torso. I just dropped, you wonder what that was. That was the stand I just dropped on the floor. I find with him, Wonder Woman's ankles were disastrous. Green Lantern's legs are just floppy, messy messes. You can still, again, have all the same articulation as, say, the Flash and the Superman, but Green Lantern's legs are really floppy. And I might actually have to grab that display stand down below there to get him to properly stand. He fell a lot. Wonder Woman has fallen a lot. You can just see how loose his legs have gotten. Not happy with Green Lantern, I have to admit. It's disappointing that he doesn't even come with the lantern, for example. But again, really none of these figures come with any sort of accessories. Let's continue with low. next we have Rebirth Aquaman, which, as an argument I can be making, most of the figure actually looks pretty decent. He's a broader build, so he's not as thin and lanky as Green Lantern. But head to toe, he looks pretty good. Well, that's not true. Neck to toe, he actually looks pretty good. Bringing a more classic design to Aquaman's classic orange, little scaled top, and the green pants. The Aquaman logo there, nicely done. The fins also on his gloves, nicely done. But then you get to his face, and it's like, my goodness. My goodness. If this was the definitive, if DC Icons was basically going to be like DC Collectibles' new take on a franchise line where basically there'd be new waves, you'd be buying all the figures, they're all kind of in scale to one another, you would say to yourself, you would need to come up with like a definitive look if you want to release one Aquaman. Now the DC Universe, a completely different line released by Mattel, had a really great Aquaman head sculpt. And the body was one of the better ones too. It was one of my favorite DC Universe figures. Unfortunately, the DC Collectibles version of Aquaman I just find is ugly. He's got what looks to be like a faux tan, which also makes his eyes look even whiter than they actually are. There's something to be said too that it looks like both in Superman's case and in Aquaman's case, it looks like his eyes have been moved further up his forehead. Seems strange, like they've stretched out his face. The hair is done pretty decently, but unfortunately the face I just find is ugly. He doesn't also come with a trident because, well, again, none of these have their respected accessories. Finally, let's wrap on a high. Another great figure in this release here is Cyborg. And Cyborg also got a standalone release, which I actually haven't reviewed yet, but I want to review soon. He doesn't quite have metallic silver. Instead, it seems like it teases you with silver, but it's almost more like a matte silver than anything else. It's got all these little imperfections in it, which I don't know are deliberate or not, but it looks like he's like hammered out his suit here, or his body. His face sculpt is actually one of the better ones. His face sculpt, let me correct myself here. His face sculpt is the best from this set. Like, it looks, if this was the Cyborg to pick up, and there was only one ever released in the Icons line, this, I think, would be a fairly acceptable Cyborg. I think he turned out pretty good. He doesn't have nearly the black, as much as it almost is more like a dark gray, borderline black, that offsets the colors of the silver, making up the majority of his body. He's got a little bit of the red incorporated here in the torso, which looks quite good. It looks a little on the murky side. I don't see like wish that there was more stark contrast. Like Batman here, faded off in the distance. There he is right there. Batman has stark color changes, stark between the yellow, the black, and the gray. Cyborg, on the other hand, like these little areas here, don't resonate as very vibrant details. Just because the nature of the way that they come across like the black doesn't have a very dark, very stark outline to it. It looks like it almost gets lost amongst the red. The red, in fact, is one thing I could comment on as a negative. The reds, more favoring like a darker cranberry color, don't seem to really pop as much as the reds, for example, like on Superman, or even for that matter on Lucy Ankle's Wonder Woman there. So by far, I would say my favorite from this release, this entire box set, is Cyborg. If I look at all the figures from this release, a total of 7 figures, I really want to like Batman, but I really hate his face sculpt. Aquaman is terrible. I don't really like his face sculpt there. I might even say my favorites are Cyborg, it's number 1. If not for her ankles, I would say Wonder Woman number 2. And I might even say Flash for number 3, with a very distant Superman. If only his face sculpt was a little bit better, I would actually have put Superman in the top 3. Whether you like or loathe the Icons line, it's unfortunate that the Icons just didn't really get the chance that they well deserved. I still will be doing a couple of other DC Icons figure reviews, because there's a couple of ones I didn't actually touch base on. This set is pretty good, but it's kind of got a lukewarm reception, in all honesty, from me. While the figures are all good, and they all have their own respected designs, The execution I find is somewhat poor on these, especially construction-wise. The Wonder Woman, I think, is just the worst of the batch. She has a great sculpt, but very loose ankles make her almost impossible to stand. You can even notice now that she's having a tough time standing, even on the display stand that I've given her. The Superman was good. I really don't like the face sculpt. Again, he said for the Aquaman. My least favorite, I would say, is probably Green Lantern. Whether it be just by the face, the body mold, the loose legs, I just don't feel like he could have been better, and so much, unfortunately, he wasn't. At this price point, you're looking, I think this was about a $125 price point for, again, all 7 figures. In that regards, it's a good value because you're getting 7 figures. Unfortunately, though, you lose things such as accessories, and certainly display stands would have gone a long way as well. If you like the Rebirth designs, I would say tread lightly getting this set. It's a great set getting you all the figures, but in all honesty, the figures are really mediocre at best. Today we were checking out, though, the DC Collectibles DC Icons. This was the Rebirth Justice League box set. Certainly, if you like this video, hit it with a like. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel, also hit that little subscribe button down below. You're good to go. And even though the Icons line is kind of dead now, if you want to go back and have a look at all the other Icons figure reviews that I've done, by all means, go back and check out my playlist where I've covered off all the older waves as well. There's still a couple of figures that I haven't done yet, such as like the Swamp Thing and the standalone Cyborg. Those reviews, whenever I get a chance to get them done, will be coming onto this channel soon, so stay tuned for that. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.